All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Aaron Salasek, he, him. I am the Direct Admissions Coordinator with the Office of Higher Education. I appreciate you taking time today to connect with us. And I have a fantastic team here at the agency. I know one of my colleagues is here today. So, Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Berghart, she, her, hers. I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator at OHI, and I support the Direct Admissions Program with just marketing materials, just communications in general, and translations. So, yes, nice to meet you all, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. We have a lot of content to cover today. And so, to make good use of our time, I wanted to propose the following structure for our meeting. If you would be so kind as to use the chat feature for any questions that come up, and as they arise, Sarah will be monitoring the chat. There might be some questions that Sarah can answer directly, but our intention is to save those for the last, hopefully, 7 to 10 minutes of today to have a bit of dialogue, and then we'll answer those in turn. This is a really exciting program, so I'm glad that you're here and joining us today. It is probably one of the largest changes in the admissions professional landscape in the last 15 years. And we look forward to your possible partnership in the future as we scale this program across the state of Minnesota. We always think it's important to ground the program in our mission, vision, values, and really why. Why are we doing this? So, as an agency, and sorry, folks, I'm going to minimize those closed captions so you can see the full content. As an agency, we know that Minnesota has not solved the college access program. We still have persistent, pervasive gaps in terms of students accessing college, taking advantage of all of its benefits and opportunities, and really leveraging it as a socioeconomic game changer. Because those gaps exist, when we took apart the process of applying to college in general, it's still clear that it's not a simple process. It's very individuated, and quite frankly, it's a gauntlet. And so, because there's so many different paths, there was a movement that emerged in 2016 with the state of Idaho to just simplify the process and to streamline and create a proactive admissions mechanism for our students and our families across the state. And so Minnesota joined a few years ago as a pilot and received legislative funding starting in 2023. And rather than have students apply, sort of contingently await a decision from various schools, we decided to proactively take college to students. This was an immense benefit. We will talk about the report that was issued about 2 months ago in brief, but we're already seeing some preliminary positive results. And everybody's on board. It's really a partnership. I will return to that theme several times. I do encourage questions. So if you have them after today, or if you're deliberating at the local level as a high school about this program and whether it's a good fit, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to myself here at OHI and or to my colleagues, because we're happy to answer those questions. In terms of what it does, it eliminates the traditional college application process and again, proactively admits students. We do this by leveraging existing systems. And so you'll see, we'll talk a little bit today about our student information systems that we have locally, but there are pre-assigned academic tiers or thresholds, 6 of them in total, and we'll see a graphic of those later. And our current year has 55 participating colleges and universities made up of tribal, 2-year community and 2-year technical, 4-year public, and 4-year private universities and colleges across the entire state of Minnesota. Each of them have opted into an academic tier. And if a student is admitted into a specific tier, they receive a email or letter or basically a communication where they can claim their place. And so that's delivered at the outset of a student's senior year. Those students then can indicate their colleges of choice. That data makes its way to OHI, to us here at the agency, and then we take on the load of cleaning that data and then distributing it to colleges and universities of choice on behalf of students and families. We do know that this national movement works. It has increased the likelihood of students applying to college at all, so students who otherwise would not have, and for students applying to more colleges. I think the average that we see for students in the direct admissions program is about 7. So 7 of those 55 college and universities around the average for students applying. That is within the norm of sort of what the national trends look like in terms of college applications. Um, there were some concerns over the years that students would select all institutions, but we are not seeing that behavior. And please know that students can, if they want to. Colleges have chosen to keep this an open access resource and application vehicle so that students can select as many of the institutions that they're interested in learning more about and applying to for free. We have seen impacts for all of our students that are engaged at direct admissions high schools. And we've seen some significantly statistical college going behavior for students who go through direct admissions. And so, within Minnesota, we have seen an increase in enrollment behavior around the FAFSA. I know that that will be sort of offset this year, and my heart goes out to all of you for that work that we're doing in educating around college affordability this year in particular. But we did see in the initial pilot year in the data set that was available to us, the filing rates for our Minnesota high school graduates were higher for students at direct admissions high schools as compared to those who were not at a direct admissions serving high school. We also saw that students who participated in direct admissions applied to colleges within Minnesota at a higher rate as well. The full report is available at our website. I encourage you to take a look at it. If you have others who couldn't make it today, to share that information with them. It is full of probably about 15 pages of tables, but I think to summarize it, in almost every area, and no matter how you observed the data, students who participated in direct admissions were benefiting from the program. A lot of times when I'm hosting these meetings with individual high schools who are thinking about applying to the program, this is really what it's all about, the program operations. And so I just wanted to leave you with some numbers before we look into the details. The program is supported fully by the agency. And so we have a full-time staff member, myself, who is always available to you. As Sarah has implied, we have a team here who also help with the program. So we have a marketing specialist, we have a data ops specialist, and so on. We have surveyed our high schools who participate in the program. In the first year, the average for the lift in terms of initial setup for the program ranged from about 40 hours cumulatively, so that's for all folks involved, to 80 hours. The latter end, it was usually for our larger schools or larger districts that had a larger subset of students to calculate the academic review for. What we have also seen is that in year 2, because we've asked and assessed our partner high school participants that same question, the lift went down. So the time commitment actually reduced in the second year as well. So I just wanted to share that with you at the outset. But again, we start with the core belief that students are college material. And so rather than, students go through the outmoded older process of college admissions, we lead with yes. And students are proactively notified of the colleges and universities that they already meet the criteria for and would be basically extended an offer of admission for. We are approved for funding through the 2023 legislator. There are sort of two components of that legislation in terms of high schools that would receive preference, but we are still looking at expanding across all 80 plus counties throughout Minnesota. That's not explicitly mentioned here, and I just wanted to make mention of that. Otherwise, we're looking for high schools that have 30% free and reduced lunch participation and or 30% of students who identify as Black, Indigenous, and persons of color. There's no cost to high schools. We actually fund high schools in part to help offset costs of this program or to help with an event locally and or funding locally that you would employ for things that range from um, a college access event night where I know some schools have ordered pizza and then brought all their seniors together to do a selection party. We've had some schools who chose to use the funding for costs to arrange for childcare so that they could then host an event where students who had young children could come attend and sort of engage without those obligations of having to also attend to their children at the same time. So it's pretty wide ranging in terms of how that money can be employed. We've also had other schools use it to take college trips locally as well. So again, students get that personalized list of colleges that are committed to admitting them. Those colleges and universities span all different types, so technical, tribal, community colleges, public and private universities, and so on. And it's determined by that unweighted cumulative GPA and grades in core areas of science, English, and math at the student's end of junior year. We'll dive into that a bit deeper in a minute here. Two last things, the program does apply to general admission. So I think it's important to note that there are some programs or majors which students might not be eligible for. If you think of some of those healthcare areas or some of those majors that have highly selective admission, this program is specific to general admission. And all students who are on track to graduate in spring 2025 are eligible for direct admissions unless they opt out. And so we'll talk about the opt out process here in a second. The goal again of the program is to increase the number of students enrolling in college immediately after high school, keep those students here in Minnesota, reduce that anxiety around the will I get in question, because again, we lead with that affirmation of, yep, you're already in. We want you here in our institutions across the state, increase FAFSA completion amongst our seniors, and then close that attainment gap. We do have a decentralized model of this program. There are some direct admissions programs across the country that are run within a single system, a single SIS system. Oftentimes, they're tied to public universities and colleges. Again, we're all participating institutional types, and we support, as you can see in the box, to the best of our ability, those 5 Minnesota Department of Education EdFi compliant approved student information systems. And so many of these are the ones you use locally. Infinite Campus has the tool fully, the program set up fully as a tool within its platform, as does JMC. Power School, we recently met with them and they will have a report uh, ready for the start of the year, but it's under construction at this moment. And then we're still in dialogue with Skyward and Synergy at this time in terms of building either a report or ideally the tool within the platform itself. Students meet the preset college admissions criteria by the academic tier that they're assigned to. They get a personalized email or letter by which they can engage the benefits of the program from that point forward. The only data transferred to the state and to the colleges are basic student information. It's a lot of the stuff that's collected in the basic MARS, GPA and academic tiering, and then the colleges the student individually chooses to select. High schools send the student's transcript as well at a later point in time to sort of round out the program. We've seen that by streamlining admissions, it doesn't limit student choice or minimize the importance of student grades and GPA. Actually, quite to the contrary, a lot of schools ended up using direct admissions almost as a tool or an incentive for a lot of its senior class in terms of, keeping those grades up and keeping that academic momentum going throughout the full year. Students are expected to maintain that approximate academic performance throughout the year, graduate in early spring or summer of 2025. I think that's an important point just because if you're coming from an area learning center or an online high school and those graduation dates can fluctuate, sometimes even into early summer. The goal is that they've graduated, they're on track to graduate, and they've done so before the start of the fall 2025 semester for your rising senior class who are juniors at this time. Students do need to complete the admissions applications, and if they're requested to submit any additional materials by their colleges, they're encouraged to do that as well. As we know, admissions is sort of the first enrollment step. Sometimes those items are used for scholarships, sometimes they're used for other purposes at each individual college or university. And then we are also co-promoting FAFSA and the Minnesota Dream Act, particularly because we are lucky as a state and fortunate to have so many opportunities for students to receive funding through the Minnesota State Grant or the Minnesota Dream Act, many of the other programs that OHE is coordinating as well. In terms of the work and the lift um, across all different partners, so we're talking about the high school side today predominantly and how OHE helps to support you. Um, there's also a robust, I guess, governance structure that I'll show you a quick image of in a second. But we also have the student information systems as a partner at the table and those colleges and universities. One of the wonderful things about this program is it is all of each partner's volition. We all opt in, and OHE does all the coordination work on behalf of everyone. But in terms of how the work actually plays out, high schools and colleges and universities opt in, like I said. There are both data sharing agreements and joint powers agreements that are signed off on at the local level. That is more than likely where your superintendent or your principal will get involved. And we coordinate all that through electronic DocuSign to streamline the whole process. The data sharing agreement covers all of the objectives for secure data transfer, which again, we have the tools in place for. The joint powers agreement is, if it's helpful to think of it this way, is the contract by which we help share funding to you at the local level. Again, high schools notify families of the school's participation in the program. For those of you that are admitted into the upcoming year, we'll actually start with some outreach in May. And my colleague Sarah has done a wonderful job putting together some promotional videos from our students. We actually have a high school counselor who has sort of delivered a testimonial to share a bit more of the program with students and families. But you can show that at your advisory classes. You could put that information in your messenger system and share that with students and families. But early notification starts at the end of the junior year for those who will be participating in the fall. And also at the outset of the fall, there's a Tennyson and a FERPA notice, which is required per state law, but that allows students and families the opportunity to opt out of the program entirely. Um, we do have that FERPA notification translated into, I think it's 13 languages. Is that correct, Sarah? Cool, 13 languages. And most of the print materials that we have either are already translated into multiple languages or could be. And so we'll kind of continue that dialogue and that dialectic as the program evolves across the state. In terms of the third step, high schools notify students and their parents or guardians by the communication vehicle of their choice about the student's acceptance for direct admissions and also their available college options. For that third one, that is what is mostly conducted through the student information system. A lot of times, to be honest, it's email, although some schools choose to send a letter that is notifying parents about the exciting opportunity that their students will be participating in. That actually can accompany the FERPA notice as well, which is, I think, the trend we saw this past fall as sort of the dominant trend by high schools. The fourth step, students respond to their notification. They choose their institutions they wish to be directly admitted to. Those responses are collected, it says by the high school, but again, that's usually the report that we'll receive from the student information system if it's built within that. If it's not built within the student information system, since I mentioned those 2 of the 5 partners were not quite there yet, OHE does have a workaround where we're leveraging some Google Drive options, and that has actually been employed to good success by a lot of our high school partners this past year as well. High schools and or the student information system securely transmit that data to the Office of Higher Education. We compile it, clean it, and then securely transmit that information to the colleges and universities. And those colleges and universities in turn inform the students individually of their next steps and how to take advantage of their direct admissions proactive admission offer. We're not going to dive into this deeply, but basically those 7 steps that we just covered, this is sort of a nice image of how the program entirely is governed. And so when I say it's a partnership, all of these moving pieces work collaboratively together to ensure its success as we scale across the state. And many of you know that because you've received information about these sessions by different channels, whether that was the Minnesota Rural Educators Association, the school principals, or even just from OHE eBlast as well. Now, again, the high schools complete 6 tasks, and these are the tasks that are in that joint powers contract and the data sharing agreements. High schools start by reviewing the end of junior year unweighted GPA and the course grades to see if students meet the admissions criteria of the participating colleges and universities. That those fields again are specified in many of the student information systems that we're working with across the state, and that work can be conducted either as a report or entirely within the SIS. Um, they then notify seniors and parents of their acceptance and encourage them to learn more about the programs offered at their participating high schools. I'm sorry, participating colleges. They prompt students to respond to the notification and choose institutions to which they wish to be directly admitted. Students can choose again one among many of the college and universities on their list. And then once they specify that and the colleges receive their information, that dialogue continues as the colleges reach out to students, let them know about any admission steps needed, and develop that relationship. Those responses are transmitted to us at the end of the academic year or even throughout the sending of students' transcripts to the colleges they select. And then just continuing to collaborate with us and to provide honest, candid, and timely feedback as we tweak the program, build out the program, and get it to its best possible state. We do sort of say that a lot in our meetings. Let's get this to its best possible state because we know and take seriously the fact that this is for our students and families across Minnesota. For those of you that are visual learners, this is another image that just sort of shows that process as it plays out. The academic review is conducted locally. Those letters or emails are sent out on behalf of students or even surveys internal to the SIS tools. Students respond, that data is transferred back to us, and then we take it from there and transfer it on to the colleges and universities. I'm going to leave this slide up for a second because this is one that, again, I often have a lot of questions about from high school partners who are thinking about um, testing out the program or implementing it locally. This is the academic tiers, and what you'll see on the far left is the tier number itself. The second column from the left is the unweighted cumulative GPA bands. And then the third and fourth are if there's some sort of qualifiers. So you'll notice for tiers 4 and 6 specifically, that is where those C average or higher in the core areas of science, English, and math come in. The second column from the right, the number of colleges accepting direct admissions, is the number of colleges and university partners who have opted into that tier. And so the final column on the far right is the number of colleges and universities that a student would see on their email or their letter or their survey as it corresponds to the tier. So as an example, if you look at academic tier 4, right in the middle, there are 6 institutions who are specifically opted into tier 4. However, a student who's in tier 4 on their email, they would see all cumulative 42 institutions who are in tier 4, as well as those in 3, 2, and 1. This program works because Minnesota remains largely test optional. While this is the 2023-2024 academic tiering, we are going to encourage our college and university partners to stay sort of within this model, in particular because we've seen such large success already in the pilot years. So this tiering has already run for 2 years. This is its second year. We're hoping to build it out for its third and hopefully continuously thereafter as well. Now, so far we've talked a lot about the sort of the governance structure, the philosophy of why we're doing this as an agency and as a state. and also the lift for you all as high school partners. But I did want to emphasize that, this is a partnership and we do have lots of resources for you as well. Um, we will spend one of our trainings sort of dedicated to the resources that are available to you as high school partners. But I did want to sort of list many of them out so that you could just see, because several of them are publicly available now. Firstly, there's our agency website, which has lots of good information, not just about direct admissions Minnesota, but we also have the My Higher Ed tool where students can search for college options. There's tons of information about all the various financial aid programs, nationally and state specific, but also special ones that might be legislatively funded as well. And then we here at the agency, and largely my colleague Sarah, who I want to thank again for this work, we built out a pretty robust agents program specific sub landing page. And so if you go to the direct admission sub landing page, you'll notice there's a toolkit. We are building out the high school toolkit still, but next year for you all that participate, we'll have one for colleges as well as for students and families. There's lots of print materials, which again are already translated into multiple languages. There is no cost to you for those print materials. I wanted to emphasize that. You will work with Sarah and our ordering system, and we can get those sent and mailed to you. As I've said twice before, there's a whole team here at the agency of support staff, and you can run any question by me anytime at any point in the future. We do have those advisory groups, so you might have noticed on the governance structure image that there's sort of a K-12 and a college working group. I really lean on those folks to make decisions, but you might hear from them from time to time as they're surveying and sort of taking the pulse of the direction of the program as we continue to scale and again deliver it as a service to our students. I have standing drop-in hours weekly throughout the year. I also take meetings by request outside of those hours. And there's all sorts of other means of troubleshooting as well. And our goal is to be as responsive to you as possible. Most high schools hear back with us from us within no longer than a business day, often within the same day. And if you needed to meet, just as an example, I often have it lined up within the next few days and or by no later than those office hours the following week. We have a whole series of trainings. So most of those components that I've talked about so far, resources, data sharing agreement, and joint powers agreement. How do you do the academic review? Each of those has an individuated training. We record them. We know how busy you are at the high schools. We record them as well. And so you'll actually have the opportunity to review them if you're not able to attend it at the times that they're set as well. And then something new we're doing for this upcoming year is actually building out communities of practice or user forums. And so those will be based in student information systems, or even some of them will be what I think we're going to call just-in-time sessions. And so those will be at the outset of the month, and they'll sort of go over the action items needed to be taken that specific month. So as an example, we'll have one at the end of August, early September about conducting the academic review. We'll also have another in September about how to send the student notifications and so on. So those will support the different action steps of the program that are timed to that month. We talked a lot about the program um, and its benefit and sort of where it's situated within the state, but also nationally. At the end of the day, this is really what it's all about, though, is our students and our families. We're really proud of this work. We do think it supports students. I know how passionate you are as college access professionals, and I'll be honest, we've had more than a few moments of tears, to be blunt, just because it is such an impactful program for our students. We've heard students who said, "I just didn't think I was college capable, or I was going to college at all." Totally changed their mind, who are now successfully at institutions of their choosing via direct admissions. And so, again, the program seeks to promote a college going culture throughout our state. It does so by connecting students and families and schools with colleges and universities earlier, promoting awareness of financial aid and also how to pay for college earlier, and showing students that they uh, have access to a certificate, 2-year degree, or 4-year degree uh, whatever it is that is their educational goal. So we have a broad sense of what college is as an agency as well, as do all of our partner institutions. Again, students do complete that admissions process to secure their spot, but we do waive the fees. I'm sorry, colleges agree to waive the fees to participate in the program. They also agree to work with students early and help them through that college admissions process. And so if you're thinking about the timeline within the admissions year, you have students who will be knowing all of these institutions, these colleges and universities that are willing to admit them as early as September, October. Actually, this past year, our earliest send date was August for one of our high schools. But that's incredible. That's in front of the college app deadline. That's in front of priority deadlines. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to, again, alleviate that stress super early in a student's senior year. Students who are directly admitted do choose to have their basic info shared. We do have an optional form that OHE has created. And so at the end of selecting institutions, if a student chooses to go to the optional form portal, that information can help build out even more of what we can share with colleges and universities. And that's important because as we continue to scale this program, one future hope would be that this becomes almost like an application vehicle itself. Some of our colleges and universities, so not all of them, but some of them are actually treating the data they receive from the Office of Higher Education, if a student fills out that supplemental form, as an actual application starter to the program. So that's a cool future state that you can think about as we move in that direction. And again, um, students don't have to select any institutions. Thankfully, our lowest response rate is I'm not interested in direct admissions as a field. But if they do, those schools are already committed, those college and universities are already committed to saying yes to students. So we did want to share two student testimonials with you, Ella and Natasha. Ella actually has a longer video at our website if you want to check it out later. And I think Sarah dropped those in the chat. So if you want to review those, but just again, a wonderful program. So much excitement, so much energy, uh, and could be a tremendous benefit for your students and your families wherever you are situated throughout the state. I'm just going to leave that up for another 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it's been such a pleasure to talk to students and hear directly from them about how much this program has really changed just the level of stress during senior year, how much confidence it's really instilled in them. Every single student gets at least 29 colleges on their list, and it's just been amazing to just hear directly from students about how much this program has helped them, and especially even for students who weren't thinking about college before this, but even still college focused students really have reported that they just have felt such a boost of confidence. So yeah, it's been a really exciting just time to just talk to the students and yeah, hear directly from them. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Sarah. And it is actually, it's one of our greatest joys to go out in the community and to interview students and just check in about how their process is going, because it's always so heartfelt. Again, check out some of those testimonials that were dropped. There are some longer versions of those videos, but I would say this sentiment sort of permeates the program regardless of where our students are participating across the whole state. So in terms of opting out, I did just want to mention again, because we get this question a lot, and perhaps even for those of you as you continue the conversation at your high schools, in terms of completing the final application prior to the end of the month. Um, it it is all student volition, and so outside of the FERPA and Tennyson notice, if a family opts their student out, a student can also select on the survey, "I'm not interested in direct admissions" as well. And so nobody's forcing students to do this program. If a college or university of their choosing within Minnesota is not on their list, and so I'll just use an example of McAllister, who's not a participant in this program, it doesn't mean they can't apply. It just means that direct admissions might not be the vehicle by which they apply to that institution. Please feel free to share that, and I'm happy to answer other questions. Again, we've already translated that FERPA Tennyson notice into a number of different languages for your sending at the outset of the year. And that is usually accompanied with this sort of checklist, which is actually a 2-pager which we also have in multiple languages. But uh, students should read that information when they get it at the outset of the year, because it'll basically inform them of what to expect when they get that survey or that email from you all. Uh, we do encourage, again, students to complete the FAFSA Minnesota Dream Act information. I know it's been a little bit of a bumpy year for that, but moving forward, that will be embedded in information that will be shared out with students and families, as well as the frequently asked questions guide and our website, which has tons of good information on it too. Sorry, I'm looking at a few screens too. So if you see me like moving, scanning back and forth, it's because I'm also trying to manage the questions. I saw a couple come up about retention. And so I did want to share a little bit about our results. Again, you'll get this information by email after today, which you can share internally. So this was actually 2 years ago. In the pilot year, we had 51 participating colleges, a small subset of 40 high schools of 7,000 students, so about 10% of our seniors throughout the state. In terms of wins, we hit all of our targets that the legislature had put in front of us. Those working groups, those advisory groups that I had mentioned, developed a really awesome collaboration, which again sort of led to our future state. We had a lot of good information sharing, both locally and nationally, as well as wonderful student stories. We did have a number of challenges too. So there was staffing, which we really didn't have a staff member. That decentralized model that I mentioned led to tons of contracts. And then there was just information as we built and learned about the intricacies of the program with technology, how to sort of build out a best practices for implementation and engagement. So again, this was 2 years ago. So this current year, I'm now new at the agency, and my job is basically to fully support you. We have 55 colleges and universities, and so there's four more than the pilot year. We scaled to 117 universities, of which about 104 have completed the program. So this is a little, the numbers I'm sharing, contrary to the slides, are more updated. But in total, we had about 22,500 students across the state. So we've scaled to about 33% of the state's seniors. We also partnered with the college access community-based organization College Possible. So in institution, or I'm sorry, in high schools that ultimately chose not to be a part of direct admissions, College Possible offered to help those high schools locally with college access information and support. And we also, again, sort of started this process of pilot testing, eliminating the admissions application altogether, hence the supplemental form. In terms of wins, we hit those legislative demographics again in this year. Those strong partnerships continued. We've had tons of national press this year. I would say Minnesota is probably the leader in direct admissions across the country. It's a really exciting time to be sharing this program and its efforts with all of you. Again, I'm new at the agency, and it says 2 of the 5. I'm pretty confident that 3 of the 5 vendors will have that tool and this process built within their own student information system by the outset of August. In terms of challenges, and this thankfully is not really a high school issue, this is an Aaron issue, but we need to streamline those contracts because there's a lot, as you can imagine. We'll have hopefully 200 high schools next year, and the goal is all 800 in the next 5 years. The implementation, still we do value sort of local control, and so we invite that creativity that comes along with that. But we do see that there's sort of like different ways to implement the program at the school level. Some of which work really well, and then some of which we might find an inconsistency or a challenge sometimes. Just making sure we're being ethical with serving all of our students, especially as we scale. And then something I know you're familiar with as high school counselors, student engagement. So the notifications go out, but then sometimes students don't interact or might not interact until, you know, April of so months after they get the initial information, which is fine. Something I haven't said to date yet, at least in this session. This program runs the full school year, and so while the outset commences and sort of the action steps need to be taken in um, August, September, and October, students can still change their colleges and university selections. They can add some, all the way through the whole school year. And we've had students who, another one of our, I guess, favorite stories, which is a little bittersweet, but one student didn't get into her ultimate university of choice, but her counselor reminded her in March that she was admitted to all these schools, these colleges by direct admission. So she went back, selected an institution, and ended up basically enrolling at a direct admissions institution instead. As of the outset of this month, we've had over 33,000. It says inquiries, but that's applications that students have submitted. About 4,816 students have taken advantage of the program. What we're seeing is that it's around 20% of students who are eligible, which is a great number when you think about it. And then I also have on this slide the count of students as they fall within those tiers. Tier one, again, is the most open access institution. It has those 29 community colleges, technical colleges, our tribal colleges, and also Northwest Health Sciences, the 2-year institution in Minneapolis, all the way to tier 6, which is um, our most I guess what one would consider the highly selective colleges and universities. So you can also see on that right column the number of inquiry applications by institution type. So we have our Minnesota State colleges, which also includes those technical 2-year institutions, the state universities, so the 7 state universities, Metro State, Mankato, et cetera. The U of M, which is 4 of the 5 campuses. We do not yet have the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, but all other 4 campuses of Duluth, Crookston, um, and so on are participating. Almost every private college is participating within this program, which is a wonderful benefit for our students. And 2 of our 3 tribal colleges are participating as well. The door is always open. I'm always having dialogue with the institutions that are not yet participating in the hope that they will participate in the future. All right. So what's next? Like where do we go from here? And I see that we have about 16 minutes left, which is wonderful because we'll have time for questions at the end. So keep dropping those questions in the chat. Thank you, Sarah, for responding in the moment to many of them and to sharing other resources. So our goal is to double the number of high schools to around 200 this upcoming year. Our hope is to serve all high schools. If you have looked at some of those demographics that have been shared, if you're wondering, my advice to you would be to apply, even if you're a bit on the fence, because we can continue the dialogue, continue the planning, continue the program execution all the way up until it's almost go time. And if you then decide that it's just too much, you can always opt out. Thankfully, we don't see that often. I would say there's a handful of schools who make that decision. Personally, I consider that an informed decision. I'm thankful when high schools choose to do that before launch. And I'd also like to end by saying we haven't turned down a high school yet. So even though it says 200 and you might be like, I'm not sure if we're going to make it in the set of new schools, please apply because we'll determine the class. And quite frankly, I would love to go beyond 200. We just have to see what our pool of high school applicants looks like. We have new resources that are in the works to assist with standardization. This is largely the work of my colleague, Sarah, who you've met today. But we're standardizing those communications, those timelines, those prompts for follow-up. We're also continuing to work with our college partners to get their feedback and their input in terms of how they're responding to students, how they can serve our high school partners, and so on as well. We've already talked a lot about that financial aid and college affordability dialogue. I very briefly saw, I think it was Carmita drop a question about texting. Sarah's done a wonderful job, and maybe Sarah, you could just talk about the social media and those other toolkits that are already available since it came up.
Yeah, we do have just a couple different resources and timelines, just according to when you can share information with families. Yeah, I believe this question was specifically about the letter and just to try to get student responses. So, and we haven't tried that yet, so it might be, yeah, something that we could potentially explore this next year. But yeah, we do provide a bunch of resources and marketing checklists and timelines, social media graphics, just different newsletter content that you can use to plug into just whatever platforms that you guys use with your students, any kind of Google Classroom or anything like that. Yeah, we do provide those resources that you can just kind of plug and play and share information.
Awesome. Thanks for expounding on that a bit, Sarah. We'll come back to that too in the Q&A because there's a few other things that I'll mention then. There's new resources being developed. So this program has been so successful that our high school partners have asked for us to continue to build out information on college search, career opportunities, et cetera, that sort of correlate with college access in grades as early as 9th and 10th. Support from partners. So again, I mentioned that communities of practice or that user forum concept that we're going to try this year, which will also include mentor possibilities and pairing high schools with those who are more veteran and have been in the program for a while. And then just increased awareness. So we'll be everywhere as much as we can. The Minnesota State Fair, the MSCA conference, MREA conference. I just talked with Diane about that this week. The National College Fair, and so on. You'll also see if any of you are Minnesota Education Fair through the Minnesota Association for College Admission Counseling. You might see some of our institutions have little table toppers with the QR code saying, "Hey, we're a direct admission school." So this program will continue to gain momentum as we build it out over time. Now, in terms of bringing direct admissions to your high school for the next year, 2024-2025, if you haven't already, please complete the high school interest form on the OHE website first. We're using this as sort of a quality assurance form so that we're not missing anybody. And Sarah, if you could drop that in the chat, thank you so much. So folks, please do that one first. And then after that's completed, and I actually already sent out a batch yesterday, but I'll send the Qualtrics application to the program, which is a little bit more in depth than the interest form. That application will go into, who manages your FERPA process, who manages your business office processes for funding remuneration, who are your counselors, who's your superintendent. So it goes into a bit more depth, but again, even that application shouldn't take more than 20 minutes or so at a time. And then we hope to make decisions throughout April as the application window will close at the end of March, with onboarding and training sessions kicking off pretty shortly thereafter in May of 2024. And so it's sort of a quick timeline, but I think you've already taken step one in many ways. If you haven't already done the interest form, you're here today and learning more about the program, which we're very excited for. So I'll pause for a minute. I will probably be looking off screen as I answer some of these questions, just because again, I have 3 of them here. But feel free to copy my contact information or you will get this PowerPoint after today. So thanks for joining us. Sarah, maybe we could just start with the questions as they came up in the chat.
Yes, so there was one question that I wasn't sure how to answer exactly. So Amy Gibson, she works at an ALC and they award credit and no credit at the end of each term and do not calculate GPA. Some of their students earned a GPA for high school courses taken prior to transferring to the ALC. How would this affect their ability to participate in direct admissions?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Amy. So we actually work with a number of ALCs already. That would probably be taken in partnership with you on an individuated basis, but we do have resources in place already for our ALC partners, as well as for other high schools that are competency based actually, so they don't even have a GPA basis. And so that's an example of a project and a program we'd likely work out through our K-12 advisory group to basically standardize the process. But I'd again encourage you to still apply because we have had other folks in that non-credit, no credit bucket in the past this past year. Next question, Sarah.
Let's see, and then, yeah, we did have a question. Do you have data on the retention of students from the first year of college to the second?
That is a wonderful question, and the answer is not yet, but soon. So in the report, if you end up going to that on our agency website, we have a pretty wide range of information spanning behavior on on outcomes for college going behaviors, right? So there's applying at all to start with. Then there's applying within the state of Minnesota, completing a FAFSA or Minnesota state grant information, et cetera. We will hopefully get to the point where we're also um, checking retention as well. We haven't had our cohort of students yet go through that component of the continuum. So soon, but not quite yet. All the data we have though is available. That report comes out February 1st. It's due to the legislature every February 1st annually. So you'll always be among the first to see that information once I aggregate it all. Great question though.
Yep. And then we had another question. If a student opts out and then changes their mind later, can they still participate in direct admissions?
They can. So there's sort of the parent FERPA family opt out. That would have to be navigated locally. So if you have a local process by which a student might opt out from a service, a resource, or an initiative, whatever they would need to take with you at that point. But in terms of direct admissions survey and the data transference, that occurs throughout the year. A student who might indicate in September, I'm not interested in direct admissions, you could just send them the survey again and they can change that option. So I guess that's a two-part answer related to the FERPA Tennyson notification. You'll just have to manage that through your local process by which a student would sort of overturn that decision. And then the survey, students can change their mind throughout the whole school year. Great question.
And then, yeah, I think that was all the questions in the chat that
Okay.
I wanted to expand upon. But yeah, does anyone else have any other questions they'd like to drop or just jump in?
So again, we appreciate you all. We also realize that you might not have a question now, but you might in a little bit, and that's fine. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer those questions. I will be sending as a follow-up to today's session, either later today or early tomorrow, this PowerPoint, the interest form, and the application as well. So if you've already submitted the interest form, you can already just move right into that next process of submitting that Qualtrics application, again, before the end of March. I just want to thank you again for all that you do. I know it's been a challenging year with the FAFSA rollout and also just with all the changes that have impacted the admissions profession this year. You, in many ways, have been the standard for students and the consistent aspect. And so I'm thankful for all that you do for our students and families to promote college access. I mean what I say. I'm here for you if you choose to do this program, when you choose to do this program. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Sarah, and others at the direct admissions team here at the agency. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for joining, everyone.